Hi, this is Anthony and welcome back to my show. My DB Cooper videos are starting to blow up my channel here on YouTube, so if you haven't already, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to this channel. Even if you don't agree with me and my conclusions, you're still watching my videos and I would really appreciate you helping me out here. When I'm not making videos, I'm replying to people's comments, and of course you get some silly ones from time to time, but most of them are very sincere and some of them are very specific with detailed questions, comments, and observations. I really appreciate those and I learn a lot from people. I've made many videos and each one I've tried to make is different, so it's not the same information over and over again, although some videos overlap a bit, such as the ones about the tie or a particular suspect. Some of my answers I can use to reply to a number of people, although I still spend a lot of time composing detailed responses on very specific questions. I thought that I would start on occasion throwing some together, such as the ones today, to make a comment and Q&A video like this one that will cover certain questions or comments that many people seem to have, as I know that not everyone is going through the comment section on each one of my videos and reading everybody's posts and my answers to them. So my plan at this point is to do Q&As maybe once a week, maybe more often, depending on the type of questions I get from people. And for some of the questions, I'm going to use exact questions or comments from people. Other ones, I'm going to combine common questions from people into one general question and answer that. I may actually put screenshots of people's comments, but if I don't show somebody's name, it's because I don't necessarily want to embarrass anybody, and I may reserve the right to edit questions and comments that I show, simply because sometimes people let slip spelling errors, especially if you're using dictation software like I do. It quite often puts a similar sounding but wrong spelling word in. So I think my viewers can understand why I may edit some of the questions. So question one, what's your interest in Cooper and why do you do these videos? Well, I think first of all, I, like many people, love unsolved cases. I'm not really interested in true crime where 6 weeks after the crime they find a prime suspect and then convict him or her and they go off to prison. That's not as interesting to me. I like unsolved mysteries like the identity of DB Cooper and the Zodiac Killer and the Black Dahlia Killer and Jack the Ripper. But I would love for all of those to conclusively be solved eventually, just as we saw with the Golden State Killer and more recently with the Somerton Man, both cases being solved using DNA. When I started this channel slightly over a year ago, I had intended to mainly look at stock investing and side hustles and things like selling on eBay, which I've done on and off for the past 20 years. I mainly sell books and small paper collectibles like old stock and bond certificates, antique checks, paper money, and postal items, along with coins and Masonic items and books. I know that for some content creators, they can get a lot of views on things like that. I, so far, have not gotten a lot of views on such videos. I've also, for 35 years, have had an interest in the stock market, and until recently, most of my videos were about particular stocks, as far as whether they may be good or bad as investments. And as I always point out, it's not investment advice. I'm not an investment advisor. And a lot of the ones I look at are crummy penny stocks and why people should not be in them. Nevertheless, because they are so low in price, there are a lot of people that are invested in them, and a lot of people are interested in those conversations because their portfolios have been beaten down so much. But again, probably like most of the people that watch my DB Cooper videos, ever since I saw that In Search of episode about DB Cooper with Leonard Nimoy, I've been hooked. I also live in Oregon, in a suburb of Portland, so in the general region of a lot of DB Cooper land, although I would be just as interested even if I didn't live here. As far as why I make the videos, I love to share my thoughts and hopefully educate some people. Do I consider myself a DB Cooper expert? No, not at all. Do I know more than 99% of the people on the street about the subject? Sure. Do I know maybe 25% of all there is to know about Cooper? I don't know, but I'm certainly here to tell you that there are many, many people far more knowledgeable about Cooper than myself. And as I've pointed out in previous videos, we have two concepts to look at when we're dealing with mysteries. One is facts, and the other is the conclusions about the facts. If you look at the known facts in the Cooper case, you'll see that there are very few known facts, and many things that people think are facts are really open to interpretation. And often because this case still has a lot of fragmentary details, and things get reported and then re-reported often mistakes are made in the reporting, and then those are later believed to be hard facts. And then, of course, when it comes to interpreting those facts, even if people can agree on facts, which they cannot always, then the interpretation is what really stirs up the discussion, and that's what makes it fun. As far as this channel, I plan to continue looking at Cooper, but I want to look at other mysteries that I'm interested in, like the Black Dahlia Killer and the Zodiac Killer. Ultimately, I would like to get this channel monetized. I'm not too far away from that, but I'm under no illusion here. I make these videos out of a love for what I hope is helping to educate people on certain things. I could see my channel making $15 a month in revenue from YouTube. That's certainly nice, but that's in no way my motivation for making videos. I can do a lot of other things and make more money for the amount of time that it takes to produce even the simplest of videos. Question 2, who do you think Cooper is? Many of the comments that I get are along those lines. Obviously, I don't know, or else I would be pushing for that candidate. What is interesting about this case, and many crime cases, is sometimes you have very few clues, and sometimes you really have too many. Clues are not always accurate, ultimately. Again, what a clue or a fact is sometimes in dispute, and certainly the interpretation of it is in dispute. I did a video recently about the Somerton man, and all the clues that were believed to be accurate, and the interpretation of them, and what the hypothesis was developed. Now, if you don't know about him, please go watch some videos. There are some great ones on YouTube that cover the whole case, or at least look at the Wikipedia article, which is excellent. But very simply, you have a guy who dies mysteriously on the beach in Australia, later determined probably to have been poisoned. No ID. Eventually, they find a scrap of paper in his pocket. That is eventually determined to be torn out of a specific book. It was mysteriously thrown into somebody's open window in a parked car. The book had what seemed to have been a phone number for a local nurse who lived literally hundreds of feet away from where the dead man was found, as well as numerous strings of letters that could have been a code. The nurse claimed that she didn't know who the guy was, but acted as if she did, and later her daughter said that the nurse knew who the man was, and that the nurse spoke Russian and could have been a Russian spy. And of course, how did the Soviets get rid of people sometimes? Poison. And that's just a thumbnail sketch, lots and lots of other things. But ultimately, DNA solved the situation, and it was just a lonely divorced man who may have been trying to contact this nurse who might have known his ex-wife and her whereabouts. Alternately, not as exciting as the Soviet spy theory led one to believe, and a lot of clues pointed in other directions. I think that that's what we're going to find with the Cooper case. We have clues and suppositions that look at paratroopers and veterans, and I think that that's a reasonable interpretation, but there's lots of things that were done that a paratrooper probably wouldn't do, like jump out in that weather over that terrain wearing loafers. We have a tie that might be a smoking gun. Most people believe that it had belonged to him and that he left the clip-on tie on the airplane when he left. I've also argued with people who believe that the tie was left by somebody else, which I had to point out that the crews go through and clean up the airliner before the next group of passengers come on. For the tie to have been on the seat that Cooper was sitting at, it would have had to have been left there by somebody sitting on the previous flight, on the cushion, and missed by the staff. Then Cooper boards, sits on a tie for the whole time going up to Seattle. All the other passengers get off in Seattle. Cooper continues sitting on somebody else's clip-on tie, which had to have been uncomfortable. And then when he gets up to leave, he presumably is still wearing his tie and leaves the other clip-on tie behind, sitting on the cushion on the seat, as it's been reported. Again, I think most people think that the tie that he left behind was his own tie, and no one was sitting there. But there are people who think otherwise. And then we won't even get into the rabbit hole of, did the tie originally belong to him? Did he buy it at a garage sale or a second-hand store? Did he work at Rem Crew in Pennsylvania, or did he work at Boeing in Seattle, or did he work at Tektronix in Beaverton? I've done a number of videos about the tie. I'll do more in the future because this is an interesting topic, but I'll stop here on that topic, the tie, right now. But to get back to answering the question, my guess, and I came up with this on my own, although it's the interpretation of the FBI also, is that Cooper probably did not survive. Just because his body wasn't found, you can't assume that he survived. Again, I could be wrong. I would love for him to turn out to be one of the known suspects or an unknown suspect. But I think that he died, so therefore that rules out any of the main suspects because they all survived past 1971. I think if DNA does solve this mystery, likely we'll find out that Cooper was somebody who was never on the radar as far as being a suspect. Somebody who died around Thanksgiving 1971. Although it's certainly possible that he's an unknown suspect that did survive, lost the money, and decided to give up trying to skyjack airliners. I think the takeaway from my answer to this question is we need to be very cautious in thinking we found a smoking gun that leads to a definite suspect, when we have so many clues and pieces of evidence that lead in different contradictory directions. And often many people ignore inconvenient evidence. Let's not forget what the stewardess, Tena Mucklow, said about Cooper's appearance, either having Mexican or Indian blood or possibly of Italian origin because he had dark skin. Mucklow spent 4.5 hours with Cooper, much of the time sitting next to him, including lighting his cigarettes for him. And here is the relevant information from the FBI file. This is not coming from somebody who saw a guy for a few seconds across a busy restaurant. This is somebody who was with him for about 4.5 hours. If your candidate is a light-skinned Scandinavian, you need to figure out how somebody is going to think that he has visibly Native American or Mexican or Italian ancestry. This is not like Elizabeth Warren having 2% Peruvian ancestry. This is somebody whose skin color gave the impression to the best eyewitness that we have that he was not somebody with a lot of Northern European ancestry. Okay, what's question 3? Is it Tina Bar or Tina Bar? Well, that one should be really easy. Let's just look at the sign that they have at the gate leading to it. Here we go. Oh, wait a minute. Here's a contradictory one. Well, without digging a lot deeper and trying to find evidence about who it was named after, I'm not quite sure. My guess is that it was supposed to be spelled T-E-N-A, and then people misspelled it as T-I-N-A. If it was supposed to be T-I-N-A, I don't see people accidentally, for some reason, misspelling it as T-E-N-A. But again, this just shows how difficult facts are in this case. One would think that the name of a fairly simple location could be an easy fact to agree upon. Yet the photographic evidence would seem to indicate that it's not. Okay, I was going to do a 4th question dealing with how the money got to the location, but this video is already getting very long, so I'll save that one for the next Q&A video. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button and leave those comments in the comments section, and click the like button. All those things really help me out in building a following. I really appreciate your time.